Hello, my name is Yadgar Abdullaeva. I am from Uzbekistan and currently I'm doing a master's course which is called Adult Education for Social Change. As a part of our master's program, we are doing an online course which is delivered by Cyprus University. This is our third semester. We had amazing tutors so far in this program. And let me just talk a little bit about the content of this online program. So this year the module is called Critical Reflection in Adult Learning and Education. As a part of my reflection, I want to talk about my impressions, emotions, and overall experience during shaping this first assignment given by this course program. So let me first tell about my first impressions about this new module. So it was really exciting for me to know about the tutor for this semester, and I was so glad to meet him. Paulos could make me impressed from our first meeting because he was so friendly and really supportive as our previous tutors. And I really loved the way he was flexible with us in terms of weekly assignments, and he was asking our opinion, like, are you agree, guys, with this content? Are you agree with this task? And it was really pleasant because as an adult learner, I felt myself really like my opinion in terms of forming the course content was so important. This was really pleasant for me just from the start. So let me in detail describe about the weekly materials. I want to talk about the content of this program, the learning materials and weekly tasks in detail. And also I will give my own suggestions to make this course program more beneficial for adult learners. So in our first week, we learned about the critical reflection and it's about its main concepts. The whole format was related to find out to give us overall concepts what critical reflection means and about its divergences. The learning materials were mainly articles. I found them not sufficient enough to give me relevant information related to the topic because after reading the materials I couldn't find specifics and characteristics of the divergences of this critical reflection. And in terms of task, I can say that we were required to prepare an informative piece of paper that can describe the divergences of critical reflection. I would say that it was not so helpful for me because we all produced the same the information, the content was the same in all our work, and I didn't find it really helpful. It would be nice, I think, if the question was shaped in a better, in a different way, like more interested in their personal experiences of the learners. Like, for example, what do you think about critical reflection? Can you present some examples related to your life experiences that can describe this critical reflection in your own experience? I think this general approach would allow us to approach more creative way in a different way. So for the second week, we had a topic which was called power relationships and social change. To be honest, I didn't understand how this second week material was connected to the first week because in terms of content, I didn't find the connection. So it was unclear just from the start. And as for materials, I really found them challenging. The language was so hard for me to understand and they were so scientifically written, and I really couldn't understand the meaning of the articles even though I looked through all the given materials. It would be helpful if the diverse forms of materials were provided for us. For example, some readers may not understand reading the articles, and in this case, like videos may help these readers to at least to get the main points, main concepts related to these things. We've learned about power relationships in our previous modules. However, here the requirement was about to discuss power relationships in a lens of critical reflection. So I would say task for the week 2 was also unclear for me. I didn't understand why we were required again to return back to week 1 assignment. That was not so pleasant for me to produce and to return back again. So as a third week's material, I can say I really benefited more here when I compared with the second week. Again, I cannot find connection between the week's materials. Like in the third week, we discussed about transformative learning and social change. Here, I mostly learned about how transformative learned was critiqued by different authors. I was really interested in finding out, like, because this is like well adopted and really popular theory in adult education sphere. Still, the authors could really skillfully critique it and support their views. From these weekly materials, I could learn how to produce a critically reflective piece of paper, and how to boost, let's say, like back up the evidences in order to support my stance. And I can say, like, in terms of tasks, I don't agree with this structure again, because here as well we were required to return back to week 1 assignment, again this like informative piece of paper. I really cannot understand why the tutor wanted us to approach these weekly materials, even though the tasks were a bit different. Like in the second week's material, it was about like to give suggestions how to may improve it, and in this week's material it was about like to critique it. But still, anyway, it really made us to go back again the same material, and it was really unclear. So as a first week's material, it was my favorite. I really loved it because it was about emotions. As an adult learner, I can feel diverse emotions in my own learning experience. And while working in groups, we have big issues, we have conflicts, and I always had questions like why it is really hard to organize like group work in like culturally diverse like programs. And these articles were so interesting. I read all of them, and they triggered more discussions in this discussion platform. It was really interesting for me because people were sharing their personal experiences. With the help of these weekly materials, I could learn more about my peers. I could discover some interesting information related to our people in our group. I would say I really enjoyed this week's assignment. I really contributed my share more than when compared with other previous like week's materials. And week 5 was about narrative learning and critical reflection. I am more curious about these materials as it is closely connected to my research method. I was thinking about doing autoethnography as a research method, and these articles helped me to boost my confidence or to help me to end up with this method. Because I was like hesitating, like, can I do it? Should I do it? Like, how it is accepted? I had like such kind of questions in my mind. And when I read this narrative materials, when I read this like information about like to produce knowledge, like to expose truth with the help of narratives, I got more interested in for this method. And for the last week's materials, we had like critical reflection and culture differences. I I couldn't get really interesting information from the articles because they were really complicated. I mean, language was so complicated to understand, more scientific, and it didn't trigger interest in me. But I did enjoy more from group discussions because people presented such amazing events, interesting, like personal experiences in this discussion board, and I really added more. I really commented on these experiences, and I added my own narrative as well, my personal narrative to this board. So my overall impression about this first week, this like assignment first, to be honest, I was confused about what to add to the list of resources that I have used or that I find interesting to share with my peers. There were no clear explanation about what to include to these resources. So I was thinking, what can I include? Should these materials be related to critical reflection? Should I present here like articles? What should I present? So I got lost here, but I just decided to put here anything, any source that triggered critical reflection in my own experience. I added there some videos, films, cartoons, songs, everything that really made me transform to some amount, to some extent. Regarding the content of this whole 6 weeks materials, I would say it is not diverse. It doesn't feed the interests of different learners. The learning styles are different. Some people learn by reading, some people learn by listening or watching or by experimenting. But I didn't see sources that can give these learners, this type of learners, the thing that they wanted. It would be nice if more YouTube videos, films, cartoons were included inside this curriculum related to the topics. That would be more interesting and entertaining. What about I want to talk about these tasks as well. Tasks were not clearly set. It made me confused. It made me think like, what should I write here? Even when I was reading the questions, specific questions to answer, it was so broad and I couldn't like find an approach to reply these questions required in weekly assignments. I can say these tasks limited our choice on approaching creatively to do these tasks. In terms of my emotions, what I can say, I cannot say I didn't have pressure. I had deadline pressure for sure, but I really enjoyed this process. There were lots of readings. I got engaged in readings, and I tried to find more fun while reading, while interacting with readings, and I really enjoyed more from this course more than my face-to-face classes. I'm so grateful for the tutor, for his friendly attitude that made us more engaged in this online course. Thank you very much.